Welcome to the Small Business Sisterhood podcast. I'm your host, Pepper Makepeace, an online business strategist for female solopreneurs and side hustlers, and founder of the Small Business Sisterhood, an online membership community serving small business owners in the first stages of business. Join me as I go behind the scenes with female entrepreneurs, revealing the struggles, strategies, and inspiring stories of these amazing women. If you're interested in connecting with like-minded women, learning effective business strategies from the experts, and being a part of a mastermind group that helps you grow your business, check us out at smallbusinesssisterhood.com. Today we're talking to Toyin Ajayi, known as Vinci in the blogosphere, as the founder of the lifestyle blog Your Life After 25. Your Life After 25 is a blogazine that covers a wide variety of topics from fashion, health and cooking, to entertainment, employment tips, and finances. Everything for living an awesome life after 25. Now Toyin has started her own fashion brand called Ife Medow, offering a line of sustainable bags and accessories that also spells luxury. Inspired by eclectic culture, Ife Medow is where Made in the USA meets the African touch. Thank you so much for talking with us today, Toyin.
Thank you. No, honestly, I have to say that I truly appreciate being here. I don't take it for granted. I mean, you've been working in this industry a long time. Like I've been working in, the blogging and media industry since 2007. And people often think that because I've been doing it for so long that everything is just like, oh, okay, yeah, you probably get tired of interviews or you get tired of people knowing what you do and this and that and the other. But I'm always excited to share information where I can. And I'm excited when people want to know more about what I do. So, thank you.
Well, that's why I love you, because you're so generous with your information and you do amazing things. And so I'm excited to dive in and hear all about it. Can you tell us a little bit more about your blogging experience with Your Life After 25?
Yes, of course. Hey, everybody out there. Thanks for listening and tuning in. My name is Toyin Ajayi, and many of you, if you've heard of Your Life After 25 or you've seen me in the blogosphere, you'll know that I go by Vinci. So 2017 is really an exciting year because it's the first year that I'm doing, something or entering into a brand where I'm going by Toyin Ajayi, which is my name. So hi, everybody out there. And as far as Your Life After 25 goes, where would you like for me to begin?
Well, how did you get started? What prompted Your Life After 25 originally?
Oh, wow. Okay. So I'm going to give you a truncated version of this because it's actually really funny. It's funny because, blogging hasn't been around for that long, but I will say the first idea to start an online magazine for me came when I was 17 years old. Yeah. And I knew I wanted to do an online magazine for women and I was 17, barely a woman myself, but it was what I decided I wanted to do. It was all about helping people. And I figured I was like, okay, if I can do something where I can curate information and do something fun for women, then, I can help people along the way. So the blueprint for Your Life After 25 actually started that long ago.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's exciting. So
it's in your blood, right?
It is. And it's a crazy thing because it's just sometimes you don't know how your destiny could be shaped early on. We do things and we just don't realize that they're going to come back later and that's going to be who we become or what we do. So I feel really blessed to have found something that I'm passionate about and I get to do that for a living. But with Your Life After 25, I started blogging in 2007. So that was kind of I'm technically an OG blogger. I tell people I'm one of the veterans, back when people didn't know what blogging was. Back then it was you had to explain what a blog was first before you told them to read it or follow it. And that was actually a really funny time because brands didn't consider us media or press. So I struggled with getting press passes back then. And it was just really an interesting thing. So even when I first thought about doing a blog, I knew from the beginning that I wanted to do a blogazine. Uh-huh. And that term wasn't really a thing. Pretty sure I came up with that. I say that and I'm I don't want to be too cocky about it, but I really do believe I came up with the term blogazine. I was actually one of the first bloggers to do show highlights because back in 2007, you didn't have DVR where you could just catch up with your shows. So I remember writing show highlights and I was always doing lifestyle blogazine format. So it was kind of an interesting thing because more people were niche back then, if you remember.
Yeah.
It was kind of, everybody was focused on one thing. And I remember when I wanted to start, everyone was like, okay, you should find your niche. And I'm like, I don't want a niche. My niche is everything. So the idea of doing a blogazine allowed me to cover a bunch of topics in a focused way. So that was, back then, the first blog was called Da Vinci's Blog. Clearly, I had no branding experience or idea of how it could grow. And honestly, it grew exponentially. I got a ton of traffic back then from doing show summaries and highlights.
I bet, yeah.
Wow. And that was like, it was an interesting thing because I was just like, I didn't even understand what I was beginning or doing. This was before shows were doing their own blogs. So
right.
When somebody missed something, they were looking for, okay, how can I find out what happened to my favorite character? And I was providing that, which was fun. So, back then I started doing the blogging thing, and a lot of bloggers, if you speak to them, they'll tell you that something can happen called blogger burnout. And that happens when we expose ourselves to a lot of social media, expose ourselves to too much work, take on too much of a workload. And, it can be something, I've heard a lot of bloggers that go through it. So I ended up going through a little bit of blogger burnout, and then I took a break, about a year and some change. And I was 24 before I decided that I needed to get back into something, but I still wasn't exactly sure what it was I wanted to do. Except I started hearing my friends that were going crazy about turning 25 and started thinking about how society makes women feel when it comes to turning 25 and kind of what that means for women. And usually it's, a woman should have children, or she should be married, she should have children, she should be in the career she wants by that age. And that's just not how life usually works,
Yeah.
So people, they get into this depressed state. It's like a quarter life crisis that women go through.
I did.
Exactly, right? Like every woman can really, like, it resonates with them because we all go through this. Men go through it at 30. So it's always interesting to see that difference, but it does happen for men. They even have the biological clock that most people don't talk about. So, but it does happen. And so I was getting to the point where I was going to be turning 25 myself, and I was like, this is something that makes sense. And I'm like, all right, you know what? I am going to get back into this thing. And I made a decision that if I was going to start a new blog, I was in it for the long haul. So I, went into strategy mode, started thinking about a name. Originally, I wanted it to be called Life After 25. And that URL was taken. And I was so, like, my whole heart was like, why? Then I was like, okay, my life after 25. But I thought about it and I was like, it's not going to be only about my life. Like, I really wanted it to be something that spoke to my audience and that I was able to share my experiences with them, and we could all grow together and all have, like, kind of a powwow and go through it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was a community thing. It wasn't just about me. So Your Life After 25 is where then, that's how that name came together. And I ended up launching it February 28th, 2011. So it's been almost 6 years now.
Wow. Well, and it's really taken off.
I laugh about this because I don't know, like, I'm just Da Vinci of Your Life After 25. Like, I just, I just want to do my part. That's really what it boils down to.
Yeah.
The brand message for Your Life After 25 has been, like I said, something that stemmed from when I was 17. It's the same brand message and same thing that I've been wanting to do, same purpose. And so Your Life After 25's brand message is to entertain, educate, and empower. So I always feel like if you can have fun with people and educate and entertain them, then they'll be more willing to kind of have fun with you and then listen to any information you might have for them.
Yeah.
And hopefully whatever information and fun that we've we've had with them will empower them in some type of way.
That's awesome. And it's refreshing. You know, you're not in it for the money. You're not in it for the fame. You're not in it for, you know, these other reasons that I see a lot out there of that, but I really like your message and your purpose. I think that's really beautiful. But you are considered a pretty big influencer, aren't you?
Yeah. It's so funny because now that's like a thing to be an influencer.
Right.
I will say this though. So even from the beginning with what I was doing, people would always ask me my title, and even on my business cards, they're like, "Oh, so what's your title?" And I knew that, like I said, it's not a blog, it's a blogazine. And half the time I'll tell people, oh, okay, I remember in the beginning saying, okay, I have a blog, because people started kind of understanding what that was over time. Mm-hmm. And then they would go to it and they would say, this isn't a blog. And I'm like, well, what is it then? No, it's a blogazine. So even on my business cards, I go by the title of editor-in-chief because that's the role that I play for the most part with it. It is the blogazine. I work with different writers, very talented writers, as well as I do still write content on the site. So that does keep me busy. But in the editor-in-chief role, there's a lot of supervision on as far as what content makes it onto the site, because I don't take everything on the site. But being that it is also my business and my baby, there are so many other roles that you have to fill. So I am the modern day Renaissance woman.
I love it.
That's the title.
I love that. Well, that is very fascinating. And I love how it grew from your idea at 17, and here you are with this amazing business that, you know, really having an impact, and you have such a beautiful voice out there in the world that is speaking to women everywhere, and that's really cool.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And now you have a really exciting new project that you're working on, correct?
I do. Okay, so, you know, I feel blessed because in the blogging industry, or influencer industry, I should say, I've been really blessed to come along with different opportunities. And, you know, what was it, 2 years ago, I wrote my first cookbook. So
cool.
That was something that I got to do as a established published author. I was actually published through LifeRich Publishing, which is owned by Reader's Digest. That was a blessing. And then, you know, I remember, I think it was about 4 years ago, I made a list of things that I would love to accomplish or be able to accomplish, like almost like a bucket list, but not really, just kind of like a goals list. You know, in this world, there's so many people telling you what you can't do, or, you know, limiting our abilities. And I always just believe that anything is possible. You just have to be willing to do the work to make it happen. So on my list a while ago, I decided that I wanted to start a fashion brand. But it's interesting because fashion is something that's had a place in my heart for a long time. So I used to design things when I was a kid. My older sister, she was into fashion. She wanted to be a model. And so we would design things together. So she had her own portfolio. And I had mine, and I'm talking about like being like kids, so maybe like 5, 6, like just drawing stuff. They were terrible, but I was a kid. But I was designing things back then, so it's kind of been something that's been with me. Yeah. And when I was a teenager, I actually had a portfolio that I put together of wedding dresses, so they are floating around. But I never like pursued it, so it just kind of sat in the back. And like I said, when I made that list 4 years, I think it was about 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago now, since we're in 2017, it was one of the things that I wanted to revisit, and I knew I wanted to do something in fashion. So this time around, earlier last year, I got like something that just kind of came over me, and I was like, okay, it's time. And I remembered having like one of my favorite handbags that I thought was just impeccably made, and it was really an inspiration. I'm like, you know what? I love handbags, but I would like to make my own handbag. So I felt inspired, and I'm like, I feel like I can do this. I just need the guidance. And I remember praying about it and saying, okay, God, if this is something that I should be doing, if this is good timing, then I need you to guide me in the right direction and help me through this. Because I didn't go to fashion school, so I was like, okay, are you crazy? How are you going to get it done? Like, so divine intervention. I had to pray about this. So, 2 days after I prayed about it, I received an email back from, Shannon Whitehead Lorsch of Factory 45, which is an accelerator program, and they take you from ideation to launch strategy. Like, they give you like information. It goes all through the program. It's a 6-month program. She got back to me. We went over it, and she actually specializes in sustainability, which was what I wanted to do anyway.
Right.
So everything just felt like it was like, you know, stars aligned.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, this sounds like, you know, a great idea for me to get, you know, on the path and be focused and do this the right way. So honestly, that was one of the best decisions I've ever made, taking Factory 45, and it allowed me to flesh out my ideas and designs for Ife Medow, which is the name of the brand. And here I am you know, almost ready to launch in April. So it's an exciting journey. It's been really fun, but you know, who knew? Like I said, anything is possible.
Right. So. That's awesome. So tell me more about your launch process. Like you said earlier when we were not recording that you're going to do Kickstarter. What is that process like?
Oh man. Okay. So Kickstarter is really amazing. I don't know if anybody hasn't had a chance to check out Kickstarter or Indiegogo. They're crowdfunding platforms. So I know most times people think about crowdfunding and they think about GoFundMe, but these are completely different. These allow for businesses or people who have really, really unique ideas, projects from movies, like indie films, video games, inventions, all kinds of things. People launch them on Kickstarter. And when I thought about going through the process of starting a brand new fashion brand, most times the old way of doing it was you put together a product and then you bought up a bunch of inventory and you hope that it would sell.
Right.
Which, you know, a lot of people, like, I'm not rich, so I'm like, that's probably not how I'm going to do it. But with something like a Kickstarter or Indiegogo, you get the opportunity to kind of feel the market and put out samples, and then you make your product based on the orders that you get. So it's like a good pre-order strategy. And like I said, at that point, you're getting a chance to build an audience and build a customer base. And then those early adopter customers and kind of the beginning of your fan base, they get a chance over time to have input on your brand, depending on how much input you want them to have. But you get a chance to poll them about what they would like to see, what they wouldn't like to see. So it's a really interesting process with Kickstarter.
That sounds awesome. And you're right. Like, the market has changed, particularly for, you know, product-based stuff, when you don't have the funds up front to do a big inventory and then just hope it sells.
Exactly.
Kickstarter and Indiegogo, it's just such a brilliant thing to do from the start. I'm really excited to see how that works for you and hear about the process for you. Set a date for your launch, right?
Yeah.
You said April?
Yes, I'll be launching Ife Medow on April 11th. The first collection is actually the Elements collection. So it's based on the 4 elements, and I really wanted to be able to launch it during Earth Month. Earth Day is on April 22nd. So that was it just made sense to me to launch it in April. It's going to be exciting though. This is my first collection. I was really ambitious because by doing the 4 elements, I had to create pieces for 4 different things, and then I wanted there to be multiple styles. So I will have a total of 16 samples once I'm finished, which it sounds like a lot, but there's a lot of variety for everybody. 4 pieces for each element. We do have gender neutral pieces, travel pieces, and then there are handbags for women and also gender neutral card holder wallets. So it's going to be exciting.
That's awesome. I didn't realize you had such a variety of pieces. You showed me some pictures of one of the handbags. I am so in love and I can't wait to see more of what you're doing. But I didn't realize you had like wallets and stuff too. So that's super exciting that you have such a variety.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really, I wanted to design something that I would wear myself. Like, it's so important because even going over product development, I don't think people realize how long that can take. Product development can start at a minimum of about 6 months, just going over finding the right fabric and finishes and all of those things. So it's been a nice journey. Like, I've enjoyed every part of it, but it's also like making sure that it is sturdy, it's absolute quality, and it's something that I would buy myself. Like I wouldn't put anything out there that I wouldn't pay for. So in doing that, I also was able to think about what pieces I would want. So for the women specifically, I did make a clutch and a tote. And then when I thought about travel, I was like, we'd love to pair pieces and have pieces that match. So there's a travel duffel, which is a gender neutral piece. And then, as I said, the card holder wallets are gender neutral. And then I have a laptop carrying case, which is more like a carrying sleeve. I always get nervous about seeing sleeves that don't, like when people carry them under their arm. I'm like, no, don't drop your laptop. So I wanted to add handles to mine, so I did.
I love that because I totally agree with you. Yes, thank you.
You get nervous. It's like, no, I don't want you to drop it. So the laptop carrying sleeve is also gender neutral. So it's an exciting, and I think it's a well-rounded first collection.
Yeah, sounds like it. Can you tell me more about the philosophy behind your brand?
Oh, of course. Ife Medow, first of all, Ife Medow, the name is a combination of two languages. So I am half Nigerian and half Ghanaian. I was born in London, England, and I was raised in Atlanta, Georgia. So being a woman that has been influenced with a lot of culture, I really wanted to be able to bring that to these pieces. So Ife actually means love in Yoruba, which is a Nigerian language. And Medow actually means my love in Fanti, which is a Ghanaian language. But with Medow, I had to spell it phonetically because all the same letters in the Fanti alphabet are not present in the English alphabet. Right. So it was just like a branding choice to spell it that way. But I think it really flows and works well together.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Thank you. So I like to say every piece is made with love because, the actual name does translate to a lot of love.
Yeah.
But the brand itself, each piece is made with sustainable materials. I consciously made a decision to use sustainable materials because right now there's so many fabrics and there's so many brands and pieces of clothing that make it into our landfills, and they're just kind of sitting there, and it really is a big pollution problem that we're facing. So the fast fashion industry, it's causing a lot of issues for our environment. So I knew that if I was going to do this, I didn't want to be a contributing factor to the problem that already existed. So with the pieces that I'm using, some of the materials include cork, which is made from the barks of trees. It's cool because, what makes it sustainable is they don't cut down the trees to make the fabric. They just kind of take the bark from the tree. So the trees get to continue to exist and provide us with oxygen that we need. And then I'm also using salmon leather, which a lot of people are like, salmon leather? Like, where does that come from? So, when you eat like different salmon pieces of food and you notice that it doesn't come with the skins, instead of them throwing away the skin, they repurpose it and they make it into this material that is really beautiful. I'm also using rPET felt, which is made from recycled plastic water bottles. That I'm really excited to be using that because I know like a lot of people aren't familiar with some of these things. So if they don't know their options, then why would they go for it? So I hope that people will learn a little bit more about the options that are available in sustainable fashion. And then another really, really major thing is being that I was raised in Atlanta and America is very much a big part of me and it's home. I wanted to do something that was going to contribute to building our economy. So Ife Medow is a made in America brand. Everything is made here. I am working with a factory in Atlanta, and I also have a secondary factory in New York that I'll be working with for larger orders. That's something that was really important to this brand, is making sure that we are building the American economy.
For our listeners that are typically like really early in their businesses, like the question that comes up for me is like, how do you even like get these people to make your products? How do you even get started with something like that? How do you find these places to supply the product or supply the manufacturing? Or like, did that come from that course that you took? Did you get some of the resources there, or like, how, are you just magic?
Well, I might be a little bit of magic. But no, I will say this. Okay, so first of all, with any brand or business that you want to start, research everything. So, even with blogging, when I first started blogging, I didn't know HTML. I didn't know coding. I didn't understand, like I said, branding. I didn't know much about branding, but I researched everything. I am a student of Google. So, when you kind of have it in your mindset that you're going to have to do that much research, it doesn't feel overwhelming. Like it becomes a thing like you can find anything that you want to know on the internet. We are really blessed with that as a resource. There was a time where you had to go to school to learn something, but if you're willing to find information, it is there for you. So that's something that I feel like a lot of new business owners, because we're unsure of ourselves in the beginning, we often think, well, if I don't know it, maybe I can't do it. And I just think that if you have more of the mentality that you can find the information, then you realize that you're not limited by your lack of knowledge. So with that said, once you realize, okay, I can find information, then you also know that there's nothing wrong with getting help where you don't know something. So those two combined will help you with the success of your business from the beginning to the end, or just in a lifetime of your business. Knowing when to pay people to do what you don't know is important. So it's kind of having that balance, and once again, not having that blogger burnout or that entrepreneurial burnout, because you're trying to do it all, and we can't do it all.
Right.
We're only one person. So with Factory 45, it was like the best investment I made last year. And it was probably one of the best investments I've made in business, because she gave us a plethora of information about how to source materials, how to approach factories, all of that I learned through her course. But the thing about that, and that's why I say you have to be ready to research, is she can't give you everything. Like, if you don't go into a course thinking, okay, this is going to be a great tool, but I still have to do the work, then you're not going to get everything out of the course that you should. And even with working with her, Factory 45 I think it's been around 3 or 4 years. So with working with her, there were things that I wanted to do in my brand that she hadn't encountered before. Like with my bags, I should say, actually one of the things that makes Ife Medow pieces so unique is that they have RFID protection.
Oh, wow.
In my handbags, I have RFID protection pockets, and all of the cardholder wallets have RFID protection, and the travel bags also have RFID protection pockets. So even going into that, it was something that I was the first Factory 45er who had even wanted to do that. So I had to do the research on how to even make that possible. So it's just kind of like I said, just not being afraid to do the research for yourself. Another really, really great resource for anybody who's trying to get into the fashion industry, or just wants to make furniture, or just be in the maker industry. Maker's Row is a really great resource. It was actually how I ended up finding Factory 45. At first, I thought it was a factory. So I was like, oh, this is a factory. That's why hearing back from her after I prayed was such a blessing, because I didn't know that that's what I was reaching out. I didn't know that's what I had done. So it was like, oh, wait, okay, it's exactly what I need. So, Maker's Row is a great resource for makers. You can find pattern makers, sample makers, factories on there.
Yeah, I'll be sure to put a link to that in the show notes. So that's great. I appreciate the resource.
Like I said, when I can help, I try.
You're kind of in your first year still of your fashion business. You've been in business so long. Actually, just 1 year longer than me, though, because I actually started my business and blog in 2008. You have all of that experience that you got to build on, but then you're starting this new project. Was there anything surprising in the new project that you didn't know before, that you weren't expecting?
There's such different industries, so that's kind of the fun of it, though, because I'm getting to learn new things. And, I feel like in life, what keeps us young and allows us to just kind of experience life in a different way is if we're constantly learning. So part of that comes in challenging yourself in different ways. And with the fashion brand, it is very unique, and it's completely different from the influencer and blogging industry and being media. So now I go from just being a media platform to being someone who will have to start speaking to media. And so now I go from being the influencer to having to build relationships with influencers in a different way. So, I have influencers and bloggers and people that I know and that I'm friends with, But now it's different because when I pitch Ife Medow or I have to speak to them about that, I'm not speaking from a place of just being one of us. Now I'm pitching from a brand. Right. So that, funny enough, that is probably one of the harder things because I'm not a person who likes to sell myself. So I'm having to learn how to do that and really be able to put my brand out there and let people know about it. But what makes it easier is that it is something that I'm truly passionate about. And I do love this brand and it's a very personal brand. As I said, this is my first brand that I've done where I'm using my real name. Even when I did my cookbook, I didn't have my name on the title, or on the cover. Uh-huh. So now this is Ife Medow by Toyin Ajayi. And that's kind of an exciting thing. It pays a lot of homage to my culture, to, like I said, the countries and places and people and things that have influenced me and made me the woman that I am. So I'm just learning about that, and I'm learning a lot about myself as I go too, because I'm allowed to be myself, which is, a unique thing. I would say the other thing is building, now I'm building a brand new social audience from scratch. And so when you already have an established audience, like with Your Life After 25, I have that, and now it's just kind of building upon it. You get into a flow of things, and it's easy. It becomes easier, right? Because you know how to interact with your audience, and now I'm just I get to have fun with them. So when Scandal comes on and we get to just do a live tweet, we're all having fun together. I'm hey followers, let's all grab wine and live tweet Scandal, and that's that's an easy thing. I've built relationships with my readers, and so that's not a hard thing. But now with Ife Medow, I'm learning to build new relationships and working to build new relationships with an audience. And it's a little bit harder because with Your Life After 25, I don't ask anything of my readers. You either want the content or you don't. You either resonate with it or you don't. I'm not asking you to pay for anything. But with Ife Medow, it's a brand. I am offering a product. So even though I really, really want to connect with people, they're going to be more apprehensive because it's are you just trying to sell something to me, or is this really? So, I think that's probably going to be one of my bigger struggles, is just wanting to still make those connections and still elevate the brand at the same time.
Yeah, it is a different kind of strategy there when kind of operating in social media if you're talking about content versus talking about a product. I'll be interested to see how that kind of plays out for you. Maybe I'll have to have you back on the show and you can tell me all about how you made it work.
I would love that. I'm more than happy to come back. The other thing with Your Life After 25, the audience is very targeted. So where, I always tell people when it comes to social media, know where your people play. Because if not, you're going to try to be on everything and then you're going to go crazy and once again, burn yourself out because there's so many different social media platforms. But with Your Life After 25, I don't have to focus on Snapchat as much because, the older crowd of people like myself, we just don't care about Snapchat that much. How many of us were so excited that stories came along because then we were oh yay, now I don't really have to make the switch. So it's knowing where your people play. And then, with Instagram, I was on Instagram, I've been on Instagram with Your Life After 25 and I do post on there, but the way I post on there is different from how I post on Ife Medow. And because it is more of a personal brand, my pictures on there are more personal. So I'm having a lot more fun with that page at this time. And so it's kind of interesting how just different things bring out different brands bring out different things in you and your feed.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's kind of knowing where to focus. Twitter, for Your Life After 25, Twitter is a big social media platform for us because it's very conversational.
Right.
But with a fashion brand, people are looking for pictures and it's very visual. So Pinterest and Instagram are going to be where I focus a lot more of my attention.
Yeah. Very true. You're going to hire more people maybe?
Well, when you speak about not wanting to sell yourself and put yourself out there, and like I said, knowing how to put together a good team. I'm glad you brought that up because that's essential. You can't do it all by yourself. So picking the right team and knowing how to put together an effective team is really an important thing. So with Ife Medow, I actually just hired a publicist. So I'm looking forward to that, and we'll be working on a strategy with how to get the brand out there. There's so much that's involved with this brand, being that it is a made in America brand. It's sustainable. It has the African cultural influences to it. And it is a high-end brand. So it's kind of explaining, being able to put all those things out there in the right way. Like, I don't want it to be pigeonholed in any way that is not like a good reflection of the brand. So I thought that was like an important thing to do at this time.
There are so many important aspects to your brand. Like, it's not just one thing. There's a lot of beautiful parts to it. So that's exciting. I look forward to seeing how that happens.
Thank you. I would say that it's very much a reflection of me and me not liking to be put in one box.
I can see that. I love it. How can people find you on the internet, and how can we all support what you're doing?
Yay, I'm excited about that. So I appreciate that. I am always for Your Life After 25, everything is at Your Life After 25, or you can find the site at yourlifeafter25.com. For Ife Medow, let me make sure. I'm going to go ahead and spell it because I know it is a unique name. It's IFEMEDOW.com, and it's the same thing on social media at Ife Medow.
And I'll make sure to put all those links in the show notes too, so that everybody can find them there as well. That's so exciting. I can't wait to see all the samples that you're going to put out and see how Kickstarter goes. So thank you so much for your time and a little behind the scenes action today. It's so fascinating to me because I've never done product-based business, and I'm so curious about that process, and I'm sure a lot of other people are too. So I appreciate you being candid and talking to us about your process, and it's been really fun talking to you.
Thank you so much. And if anybody has any questions, I actually do tweet from Your Life After 25, so
it's really you?
That's
okay.
Good to know. It's really me. And on Ife Medow, I'm big on Instagram. So if you're wanting to kind of get that, like if you have a quick question or you just want to say hi and, like I said, support, that's going to be fun to do. And if you are on Kickstarter, don't forget to follow Ife Medow on Kickstarter. That way you'll know exactly when we launch.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This has been so much fun.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Toyin, for talking with us today. You can find out more information about Toyin and a link to her website in the show notes for this episode at smallbusinesssisterhood.com/11. I hope you found this episode useful and inspiring. If you did, please pop over to iTunes and leave a review. Thanks for listening. Catch you next time.